What I've liked about the Belarus performance is that you've used the stage differently from a lot of acts. You really pulled in the cameras and stuff. So it's not this vast show that some acts are putting on. They've shown, and Belarus is one, Ukraine is another, where they've pulled in the cameras so you don't have any idea of the scale of the stage. Because otherwise you're going to
made it smaller.
Yeah, they made it smaller by clever camera work. So for example, Belarus is coming after Ireland. Ireland has gone the other way. Ireland is going, make everything bigger, more Celtic, more bling, more everything. And I'd question whether it's working or not. Belarus is pulling everything tighter, sharper, focused more, and I think that works better.
Is it a qualifier for you?
You see, I have to be honest. I'm always honest, Kath. In this semi-final for me, Greece is a qualifier, and then you've got 9 from the other 15. It's almost like that. I think probably Georgia is too outlandish to qualify.
Well, you've got 45 seconds of yodeling for Georgia. That's a bit hard to take.
I like Georgia. I really, really like Georgia because it's so different. But I think on first impressions, and go back to the first time you heard the song.
View it at home in your lounge room.
You're going, it's a little on the edge. So they might be out of it. After that, I mean, people are saying, can Lithuania and Macedonia and Israel all qualify? I'm going, yeah, actually they could. And in all of the years of the semi-finals, this second semi-final is the most difficult I've ever come
And they're all very different too. It's very hard to compare them. Because we're also seeing all of the delegations come and go.
Yeah. I mean, you've got the weirdest of mixes, like you've got Austria, you've got Georgia, you've got Belarus, Ireland, Slovenia, all doing completely different things. So who's going to go?
Speaking about Austria, you've been quite positive about that, I think, on your blog.
I like the way it's being staged, but I have to say I'm fed up with drag queens at Eurovision. I think we've just had enough of them. It's you know what? There's a hugely diverse musical repertoire out there. Why do we have to have so many drag queens? This will be the 4th drag queen act that we've had in the space of 10 years. Verka, the Slovenian boys, DQ from Denmark. I don't particularly like drag queens anyway. It's a one-dimensional act, and for me the song is nothing special. It's like Shirley Bassey looked at it in 1974 and go, it's not good enough for me. And somebody dug it out of a shoebox. It's staged very well. It is staged very well.
The song is very dated.
It's very dated.
I mean, it's the character he's selling rather than the song. The song really isn't much.
Yeah.
But I like her. I love her. But the song is. I don't go back humming it or thinking about it. So
many people do love her. We saw that at a press conference earlier today, and we've also seen that Conchita Wurst is actually telling about what is the main aim of her appearance here in that press conference. Maybe it isn't the song. Maybe it is her character. Let's listen to herself.
You know what? I totally get that. I think it could be a bit confusing because. The problem is that many people think the way I express, most of them say, well, I'm also gay, but I don't need a beard and a dress to express that. This is just my own truth, This is not the alternative reality, so I feel comfortable that way. And I just can say to those who don't really realize yet if they are gay or not, I'm a bit scared of this change. I don't want to scare them, I just want to show them that they can be accepted in any way, They're allowed to be
People can be accepted in any way, but then the question that went along with this quote, I was there at the press conference, was, don't you think that an act like this, an over-the-top drag act, can also, I mean, she's here for tolerance, but the question that some people ask is, isn't it sometimes, when doing it so much over, is that really helping for more tolerance for gay people?
I think it's actually a bad thing for the gay community because it's showing the most extreme elements of it. I mean, how many drag queens with beards do we have in Europe? Possibly one. This is the most freakish, the most extreme element within the gay community. So I think this is doing absolutely no favours whatever for the wider gay community. For me, an accountant going to work every day, a politician who stands up in Parliament and says, I'm gay but I'm representing the people, is doing 100 times better work for the wider acceptance of the gay community than somebody who's at that much of an extreme from the rest of society.
But Keith and Steve, well, that rhymes, Keith and Steve. But Keith and Steve, does she have to have the whole weight of the gay community, if you know what I mean? Or is she saying, look, I'm a diva, I love what I do, put my makeup on, I feel terrific, I feel comfortable doing this. Is she really she's representing her right to be who she likes rather than have this pressure?
Another problem that I have is that ORF, the Austrian broadcaster, chose an act which they knew was going to attract this kind of attention. And they didn't choose the act because of music, because it's not somebody who's had big hits or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to choose an act internally to represent a country and the people of that country, the people of that country have to be welcoming and accepting of that act, because they're being denied a choice of the act that represents them. And
Yeah.
ORF have denied the people of Austria the choice of who represents them. And they've chosen an act not for their music, but for the outrage that they're going to cause. And I don't think that really is very, very helpful. I would have much less issue if the act had been chosen in a national final, because then I would say Austrians voted for it. They wanted this act at Eurovision. But 30,000, 40,000 people went online and said, no, this is not an act we want representing us at Eurovision.
I think that's quite frightening. That I know there's been a lot of emphasis on the polls in Russia saying we don't want her, but actually even in Austria itself has had a backlash, and that makes me very sad. So it's a wider issue. It's not blaming one country over another. Personally,
How about
I think
Belarus?
she's fabulous. Apparently there was an outcry in Belarus, but in terms of the 23 incredible people I work with, they adore her. I mean, if you work in the area of entertainment and show business, you come across absolutely everybody in the world, and you are all inclusive and accepted. I don't think it occurred to Tio not to adore her. They started flirting before they even met. She saw a video of him and said, oh, he's quite handsome, I'd like to have a drink with him. And he said, okay. Turns out he's not allowed to drink throughout the duration of the festival, but he gave her some vodka yesterday. It wouldn't have occurred to him or anyone in our entourage not to do that. So it genuinely still shocks me. The older I get, the more shocked I get at how narrow-minded some people are. Because the more you live life, the more you realise how much there is for you to learn and to appreciate. So I absolutely support her being here, and I adore her. And you're right, she gets the lion's share of publicity because of this. So personally, I think she'll do very well out of it. As for the song and how it goes for Austria, I'm not so sure.
No. I mean, it's the delegations that probably get along very well. But then, that's something very different, because you can still wonder, even if Theo likes her, if Belarusian, Russian, Ukrainian, no matter who is going to vote for her when it comes to it.
I know. And that's a really tough thing, because I actually feel, as now being part of a delegation, how does one person represent all the thoughts, the tastes, the mood of the country they represent?
They can't do, but
the three of us sit here. Do you represent Holland? Do you represent Ireland? Do I represent Australia, Switzerland, or Belarus? We're all so different, and I think it's a lot of pressure for anyone.
But that's why I think an open national final, where the people are choosing the act, at least the people have a say.
Yeah.
And even whether it's the UK, who have chosen a very, very good act internally this year, I still would have preferred if they'd actually gone down the national final.
But isn't that a
route.
money thing? Let's just pick someone and save some money.
Sometimes
At least the UK picked someone in her 20s this year.
Yes, they did. That's a major advance.
Let's take 50
that
years
helps.
off.
It
That
does, yeah,
helps.
it really does.
I mean,
help.
it could be a money thing, because there's also so many countries that withdraw from the contest. I mean, this year, that's why we have this small semi-final.
Finals,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the national finals, and particularly if you have a long national final process and you go to an external venue rather than in the broadcasting studios, can be a very expensive thing. I think the Late Show and all the mentors in Ireland and the money that goes into it, is actually more money than we actually will spend. RT will spend out here with putting up the delegation.
Yeah.
But yes, it's expensive, but you get an extra television show out of it, or at least one television show, and you know then that you have the support of the country, and it raises the profile of the act going to Eurovision.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's certainly important to be part of, but I've also I do love a flit around and I like to talk to people. And a lot of people said, actually, you want to place well, but you don't necessarily want to win because that TV station then has to stage something as enormous as this.
And there are very few broadcasters that can actually do that.
Could afford it.
Well,
yeah.
that's true. Okay, so now, to make Belarus a possible winner, or at least a qualifier for the final, what are you going to do in the upcoming days?
What are we going to do in the upcoming days? That's a really hard question. For me, I want to make sure that he enjoys himself because this is the biggest thing that's happened to him in his life, but it's only one aspect of what he can do. He composes, he works with traditional music, he wrote two of the other songs that he was singing against this year. He wrote Alyona's song last year and the year before. So this guy is going to have a career in music till the day he dies. He will compose and do movie soundtracks. However, for this act, he knows he's got to focus just on Cheesecake and his singers. And
how are you going to help him with that?
I want him to relax and I want him to laugh. And one thing I did to him this morning was I left some chocolate outside of his hotel room, and he opened his door and he trod on it or something. And then, but I want him to realise too that with all the pressure and the seriousness, to enjoy himself. And when he does, I can't turn him off. Like he was here yesterday swinging on the swings when he was supposed to be with someone on the radio. Then he was with someone on the radio and bringing other people into the room. And then he's got his maracas out and we couldn't get him on the bus. And if we can unleash that without him damaging his voice, that will, and if he gets the feedback from that, because I want him to hear some of the feedback so that he knows that what he's doing is appreciated. People are enjoying it.
Bring him along to the after show welcome party that's tonight.
I want to bring him along, and he doesn't have to sing because I imagine it'd be like in a nightclub, you're yelling. But just to meet people, because he is really surprised that people, want my photo. That's great. So I want him to relax. I think the act. I don't think there's anything else we can do. It's polished.
You've got your camera and you've got everything done.
He's got the most adorable face and the most beautiful eyes, and I think the shots for that are great. Now he needs to relax and enjoy himself.
What are your plans for the last couple of days?
Well, for the last couple of days, I've been doing the rehearsals, and I'm watching the 6 automatic finalists rehearsing today. Just putting little tweets up just to what I think of them. Tomorrow, I am going to go to the press rehearsal in the afternoon, and then decide, because there are 3 parties that I want to go to tomorrow night. Israel, Italy, and Ireland are all doing parties tomorrow night, and there's the jury final for the first semi-final tomorrow night. So it's one of those things.
Can you make up your final list after that?
I have a list that I submitted to the fan poll that you saw earlier on there, and I've probably put those in. But I might tweak them, and I'm actually going to put a blog out or a tweet out where I'm actually make my final predictions. And we have what we call a handkerchief of death, where everybody writes on the little napkins in the restaurant where they write their 10, and we put a local banknote in, and somebody collects it, and the person with the most right answers pools the money. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow as well.
A handkerchief of death.
So a lot happening here at the press center, at Keith's website, but also at escdaily.com. Everything that's going to happen in the next couple of days, you can follow it with us. You can follow footage of the Australian delegation also. We've interviewed a lot of people there. And you can see a new episode of the ESC Daily Show later on this week. Have a lot of fun with this second Eurovision week with the live shows, and for now, good night.